Okay, we're going to start here on Michael Fryk's car. I believe this is a 58 190 SL. I just told somebody I thought it was a 61, but I believe this one's a 58. Did an inspection while he was here the other day, and the engine was totally covered with oil. It's been all sprayed down. You can see oil. You can see oil already dripping off the bottom of the oil pan right here. This is in a very short time after we cleaned everything off. It is all wet all the way up, and very difficult to see, but the nut on the bottom, I think you can see it up there. Yeah, darn thing acted up. The inside of the bell housing area is got oil residue all through it. Not sure if the rear main seal of the motor is leaking or not, but does not appear like the front main seal is leaking, and that's a good thing. So the suspension has to be dropped down out of here to get to and repair this tube. We don't feel the motor has to be completely disassembled and resealed. There is a bypass tube on the water pump is leaking because we don't think they ever put seals in it. So water pump housing there looks to be leaking. That can easily be fixed when the motor and so on is dropped down. So the front suspension, transmission, and so on will come out. I would probably pull the tranny back from the motor and clean out all that oil residue and see if the rear main is leaking. But that is a minor issue compared to taking the motor all apart. So that's not so bad. I don't think the transmission has to come apart and be resealed, which will save him probably $800. The rear axle is really oily. Don't know when this darn camera quit on me. It's been acting up. As I was saying, the transmission should not be needing resealing. Save him about $800. This rear end, they said, was noisy. Either bearing wise or what, but it is all covered in oil. So I'm almost positive that that front seal has been leaking.
Like a roll of dumb gum?
My camera here quit on me again, and it is acting up, so I don't know how we'll get through here, but trailing arm easily punched a hole through it right here. Other side, when you thump it, it's kind of soft. You can see some marks there we made by just lightly tapping. So trailing arm supports it needs. This frame cap on this side is flattened and smashed, as well as this one, and there are rust holes completely through the bottom here. And this will be probably full of mouse nests and the like, but we won't know until we pop the cap off. He wants the car safe. He can live with some things that aren't perfect, like spare tire wells that have been patched. As I was trying to say before the camera quit, there's holes right through this jack port, can be patched. But with the rocker panel and stuff in the way, you really can't get to it. That is a very structural part of the car, but not so much as the very end of it being soft is a big deal, so we'll just patch it. The floors go to this rail. They've been doctored and patched up, so the floors will come out. But the good news is the front end, we think we can just repair what's necessary, clean it up and paint minor areas, new kingpins and the like, and be able to do this front end for a lot less money. So I'll get this video off the mic. You can see the oil just running down the pan. Okay, head bolts are out, hollow bolt is out. He's shaking it loose already and cracked it loose. I can tell you right now, she's been burning rich, which is what he told me. Just a second here. These are the holes that we said didn't line up. But why does it look okay?
I don't know, it does look like
What were we seeing? We saw stainless steel.
there's holes on this side. Where's that putting thing?
I don't want to damage this getting it off because I don't have another one.
Glued it on.
That's okay.
Good thing. They glued the intake and exhaust manifold gasket on too.
Jump to that side.
That baby was on there.
What did we see through the holes? We saw stainless that didn't look like the holes were large enough. Remember from these ports down here?
Unless there's cups in there that are upside down.
Well, it doesn't look like the block was boiled out very well, but I don't see, which ticks me off, I don't see an issue with the shim. Why did I see stainless steel?
What's the number on that head? 121. It is a 180 SL head, right?
Yeah, it's a 3820. I checked that out long before this.
I thought it was these holes. That's the wrong side. Why not seeing the water to burn?
Other than the fact he's been burning very, very rich. There is corrosion around the water ports, which we'll clean all out. I do not see what I expected to find on this shim. The shim holes are large enough.
That water hole right there is all, by your finger, is all ate away too. On the inside, it looked like it was all chewed up.
Dimpled in.
See it?
The holes for?
Huh?
One of those holes
It's
for?
been welded up and ground down. Those are just pock marks. He's had valves come loose, or something come loose, or maybe even rings come loose. See the crack, the dents in the aluminum here, and dents right here. Something came apart in this engine at one time.
That's all been worked.
This has all been welded.
Well, that's why that cam tower was welded.
This is all welded. Oh, because it came down and whacked these valves and cracked the cam.
Yeah.
Broke the tower.
Broke the tower.
Broke the camshaft. That's why it's a different camshaft.
That's right.
Okay. Here you go.
Now you can't see.
Oh, that was the number on the gasket. I just wiped the number off. That was it right there. See that number on the gasket?
Yeah.
The 4020? Well, we'll clean this up. Clean out the water ports. All is not lost. Better to have the head out of the way when we're changing other things anyway, but she stood it up bad. She's burning fuel like crazy. Huh?
It smacked hard.
Oh, the piston's dented.
that one.
So this might be the same pistons that when they had damage done,
So
huh?
was that one.
Flag's pretty good.
It
Two
didn't.
pistons that have a circle.
Pistons came up and whacked the valves, which would have blown
The cam.
that cam stand in half and tried to knock it right off the motor. Yeah.
Why did the chain come loose or something?
Probably.
Well, they've doctored this tensioner up so bad. I'm guessing the tensioner failed. It jumped a tooth and went boom.
Oh, okay.
It was about to do it on him again because they didn't have this nut on the tensioner tight.
saw
The
that.
tensioner was falling apart. Maybe they, here's the stupid thing. Now I'm thinking of why they backed the nut off. The chain was too tight.
Yeah.
They couldn't get it loose.
They couldn't adjust anything.
They couldn't adjust
They
it.
backed the nut off.
So they just loosened the nut.
That makes, but that thing was already 2 turns, another 3 turns, and the cam
But it was loose, so they could have been driving it down the road and it would have backed out more.
Would have backed out and-
loosen that right up.
and this thing would have jumped, and this all would have happened all over
all
again.
over a cam chain tension.
Yeah, if they would have changed the tensioner itself instead of trying to save
Right.
$50 or whatever they run, they stuck a cap on the end of the tensioner. Did I film that when I was here before?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did.
It's laying in the bottom of that box.
Yeah, no, I changed it.
Yeah.
So they must have backed the nut off
I don't like it.
because the chain was so tight,
Right.
and that's why it leaked like crazy. Rob put it back together like it was supposed to be, which made the chain tighter than I've ever seen a chain.
Right.
I just tightened it. I mean,
All you did was snug it back
I
down.
pulled the cap off of it. It sprung back a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I looked inside it, and the seal was all just smashed. So I pulled the seal out, threw a new seal in it, and stuck it back in.
Well, we'll clean up this stainless steel shim and use it. We'll clean up all these water ports, wire brush put a solvent on the pistons and clean everything up. We'll DA the top of the block just lightly to just clean it. And then we'll change the gears that need to be changed and put this thing back together. Huh?
There's an old intake gasket that they put back on.
You think they used... I think I sent him a new one.
They just glued it.
They just used the old intake gasket and glued it, put it back on?
Because this is all got corrosion all the way around.
That doesn't look like it's new.
exhaust port.
I don't remember seeing a new one.
I'll have to go look in my file and see if he actually bought a new one or not. I sold him the... that's a used set of intake manifolds.
Oh, you got that out.
We should just laser them.
Send it out and do it maybe.
Yeah, we can't do stainless steel.
All right, well, enough for now. We'll get things cleaned up. I think they are getting some gears in, so I'll bring the gears back as soon as we get them. He pressed new bushings into these areas. He brought a press in and did that. You got the old ones laying around here somewhere?
What?
You got the old bushings laying around here somewhere?
Where?
The bushings, the new ones you pushed in, you got the old ones? The old ones that came out of it. I just want to show them on film.
You already did.
We did, but they were still pressed into the housing.
There's one of them. The other one's in here somewhere. There's the other one.
And then the steel ones we already showed.
Yeah.
The steel ones go inside of these, right?
Yeah.
So these were worn because the steel ones were all shot. These are really dirty inside too.
Yeah, they were bad.
That thing must have been slopping all around.
They popped apart hard too.
All right. So the rear end is back together. New seals, new outer wheel bearings, new inner and outer seals, new rubbers here. Did you put a new pinion seal in this one?
Yeah.
So a new pinion seal here, new rubber O-rings on the shaft, and a new full boot, not a split boot.
After I got it all together, I found these in his parts. He already had them.
Oh, he already had
They were
these,
in his
so I
trunk.
probably build them for him.
Yes.
All right, Thank you. Can I have that whole box? I'll just credit him off his account for those.
Okay. I got you can have them, but I want them back.
Well, take them for this guy's car. I'll credit him back. I know what the number is. And then they're going to paint these tonight. They have all new bushings in there. You can see that's a new bronze bushing, all nicely fit to the kingpins.
This is junk.
We're going to be painting that so that we can get the rest of the front end together. So we'll get some shots when we get this painted and the front end back together. And we're discussing with this gentleman here doing the body work and paint, and then doing a new interior. We're kind of waiting on putting these floors in till we find out how much this body we're going to be cutting out, because it actually makes it faster to put them in. Back to Michael's car. No way to get this. No way to get this gear off of here with that bump in the. That bump right there in the oil pan. Gear's right up by it. So oil pan had to come off. Pretty sludgy in the bottom, even though the oil looked clean, isn't it?
Oh, that's the oil.
So the oil doesn't look that clean. Well, we were going to change it anyway, but. Yeah, there's some sludge in it, but not so bad. They did clean up and paint the inside of the block, it looks like.
No.
Down in here, is that what it usually is from the factory?
Normal, yeah, that's factory.
That's factory color. So we'll be putting, well, I guess we'll be putting a rear main seal and a front seal in it then. Or do you
Half
think
a rear main.
the rear main is decent up in the block? Okay. All right.
Oh, I just got to pull the crank.
Yep.
Change the whole thing.
Then we'll, these are Michael's front spindle and hub assembly, or housing. And then they will go on his front suspension, put that together and get that rolled out of here. Get some shots of this as it's going back together. This is a spacer sleeve that goes on here, but it's also the sealing surface that the front seal rides on, and it's all chewed up. But Rob just told me that in his parts that came with the car, there was a new one of these in there already, so we're going to use it. He's not going to put this thing back on. And there are some old guides that go in here to guide the chain.
They're right here.
And we're going to put, are those the old original ones?
Yeah, these are original.
Oh, the rubber gets cracked and shot.
The ends split off and they got little hairline cracks through
Yeah.
both of them.
Yeah, this is what happens when they're 60 years old. There's cracks through this rubber. There's pieces missing. We aren't going to trust that to guide the chain properly, so we're going to put some new guides in there. It'd be silly to go this far and put old, used, broken, or cracked stuff back in there. So one short, one long,
Yeah.
and you have a chain, correct?
And then you change.
All right.
Sludge out of the bottom of the pan. It's like, oh my.
Once we cleaned up the oil pan for Mike's car, we got a little surprise in the bottom. I'm not picking this up very well. Here, I'm trying to magnify without losing focus. What is that, like 3-inch long?
Yeah.
There's a 3-inch long crack right through the oil pan. All right, here's what I got to do. I got to fix that rear axle that's broken. Not on Michael's car, on another car. I don't want to scare Mike half to death here. So what I'll do is I will grind through that, take it across the street, and I'll heliarc it.
You gonna pound it back down first?
I'll tap it back out and grind material away. It does not leak out the bottom, or you don't know.
It didn't, but there was a 1/4 inch of sludge in the bottom.
It was really thick crap in the bottom. So now our luck, that's a deep crack.
It's a pretty good crack.
I'm afraid that,
Well,
do me a
you wanna see
favor.
the other side?
Yeah, do me a favor though.
You can't really even see it. It's just a line.
It's dented.
Something's gotten driven over.
All right, do me a favor.
Looks like somebody jacked it up right there.
Tap it down. Take a cutoff wheel and cut me down about a 1/16 of an inch into that, so I got something to do. And the weld mark will be on the inside. It won't be visible out here. But take that small dish pan out of that, okay? And then I'll fix it.
Alrighty.
You can see,
Sure you want to do that?
in reality, this isn't too bad considering most of these cars, these babies are beat right down to nothing. Can you take a file to those or just clean them up for me?
I will.
Because well, it's sharp enough to cut my finger. So somebody recently hit things with this because those are clean and sharp. Or was it only because you just cleaned it?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't look at it.
This is how dirty it was inside, right?
Well, that was.
Or that's just a drip of paint when you did the motor.
No, that's sealer, I think.
Okay. Well, yeah,
Could
just
be paint.
tap that back down, take the hump out. It won't split it any worse or anything like
Man, I
that.
hope not.
No, it shouldn't.
'Cause I've had them star.
You don't have to get it completely
From it,
flat.
you
Just
know.
take some of the hump
Oh, I
out.
know. I won't
Grind it down in there a 1/16 or so, and I'll fill it back in with aluminum.
Stick a 2x4 in the bottom.
How many you
All right.
order?
Back to Michael's oil pan. And here's where we can tell. We think someone jacked up the car, put the floor jack right under the oil pan, because that's usually what bends them up. I cleaned it up. Rob ground down into there. I aluminum heliarced aluminum back into it, which distorts and blisters the daylights out of this side. So we ground that down, smooth that out. I started cleaning this up. They're going to sand it, kind of clean it up, blend everything in, but you can't see. Oh, he also hammered, took a block of wood and hammered the big dent that was on here. He hammered that out. So I have sprayed this. They're going to put a liquid in here for the weekend. Make sure there's no leaks anywhere else. Something just as an observation that Rob pointed out that I missed the other day. Right here, you can see where that one time when that engine went boom, the timing chain came loose and beat the oil pan up right here, but it didn't knock a hole through it. So we're not going to mess with that. It didn't hurt anything or break anything. So I just wanted to get a shot real quick of the repair. I'm not going to polish this out flat because that little extra weld actually strengthens that area. So we're going to leave it like it is. I've been gone for a week in Florida picking up cars, so they've been cleaning and organizing, cleaning off this. This wall is going to come out, so they removed all the equipment, some doors and stuff here, all the equipment that was here. Back onto Michael's car. They're stripping it so we can sandblast. So they're taking everything apart here and in pulling some things off.
Sure, the coil wire is the main power wire for your motor there is shot.
They're worried about insulation. Holy mackerel.
That's the coil wire.
Yeah, but there's only like 3 little pieces of wire left.
Yeah. It's all brittle in here.
The insulation's falling right off it. Look at this.
Yeah, here. Right here.
Yeah, but just watch this.
This is
It's
coil.
already cracked. I can pull bits and pieces of the... That's all bare wire.
That's right here. That's the coil wire.
That's the power going to the coil.
Yeah.
It's one the car ran. And that's even the wires are brittle and falling apart.
All right.
Not just the insulation, the actual wires are all corroded. Oh, he's not gonna be a happy boy.
And there's the voltage regulator wires.
All right. What about up there?
I don't.
Well, if it's
doesn't
cracked,
matter.
if it's cracked and shot here, for sure we got to pull at least that one wire and replace it. If he doesn't want to
all
go,
the way to the fuse box.
yeah, if he doesn't want to go with a wiring harness, which is kind of expensive. These are all looked into. I'll have to bend back and forth These feel okay, but they're pretty stiff. If we bend these and the insulation starts cracking off like crazy, you're not going to be able to use this wiring harness. So we're going to have to kind of look at that. That one wire, no doubt, is toast. But if it's just one or two wires, we'll have to wrap it in something other than that cloth, because you have to send that off to another state to have that braiding done.
Shrink wrap.
Yeah, we've got that heat shrink that looks really nice.
There's the coil wire, or that's the voltage regulator.
That's the voltage regulator wire.
Yeah, your main.
That thing's almost been on fire.
Yeah, that's your main hot wire. Charging wire.
Oh my goodness, the insulation's totally wasted.
That's part of the wire that you're pulling too.
Wow, the wire, look at the wires are coming off in pieces. They're all corroded. This was underneath the heater box over here?
No,
There
there
was
wasn't one in
box
it.
on that side.
It was underneath this clamp.
One under the clamp there, okay. And this goes
All the way to the fuse box.
This goes to the fuse box along here and comes back over the fuse box.
Yeah,
So this is the main front harness, which obviously is the most expensive harness in the car. All right, pull it out and we will inspect the rest of it. I'm just playing around with the ends here.
Those wires don't matter.
What do these go to? The horn?
Fog lights.
The fog lights that he doesn't have?
Correct. No. Comes in every
Okay. Well, you gotta get it out. At least pulled back into the. Well, you don't even want it in here. If you're sandblasting, you don't want that around.
No, it's
Oh, we gotta pull
the
this
whole,
panel
the whole thing
anyway,
comes
so
Yeah.
I'll just pull the whole
Yeah.
wiring harness out.
Well, inspect it better once we get it on a table where we can look at it. If it's just pulling a wire or two wires in the system, then we'll do it. If it's getting into, if we start bending wires and the insulation's flaking off and cracking, the ones that are bad, they didn't use a vinyl insulation. Do you see what they used?
Use that cloth. the one-
They used a rubberized cloth, and look at this is the insulation around a bare wire. It's powdered.
Yeah, falling
See the
apart.
cloth left over?
Yeah.
So anything with the cloth braiding like this, watch what happens when I just roll it in my fingers.
Yeah. Gone. Yeah.
And this, Rob, this isn't fused.
No, that's the main one. That goes,
They don't fuse this. So if this thing shorts out, the car goes on fire.
that goes to number one fuse, which is live all the time. As soon as you turn keys, live.
Yeah, but is it fused? If this shorted, would it blow a fuse? One of these wires is not fused.
No, that
Comes
goes-
right off the main harness out of the battery.
Well, it goes to the. Yeah, right. It goes to the battery.
So it's not fused.
To the harness and then off to the battery.
Is it fused though? I don't think it is. One of the wires is not fused, and if it shorts, it constantly feeds the battery and just catches the car on fire.
Right. That's.
This is the one? That's what I was afraid of. So for sure, that's got to be replaced. I have these in stock if you don't like this generator harness.
$12.
And they aren't that expensive, so
Just change.
probably it isn't worth trying to fix this
Right,
old harness. I've got like 6 of them in stock. So
Plus it's stiff and brittle, so might as well just. It's not really crappy wires.
I'll inspect these when you get them out. But there's quite a bit of surface rust on this brake line.
You're gonna have that problem everywhere, I think.
Yeah, but if it's deep, I'm not using it over.
The wire.
This one's right down to the wire, so.
But that's the generator.
I know, you can replace, I'm just saying.
But if the other harnesses are like this, I can't use them.
Right.
So what we'll do when we get it out, we'll take the wire and we'll bend it. If it blows up like this,
Yeah, then.
we can't use that harness. He wouldn't want you to use the harness. You'll set the darn car on fire. So we won't know until we get it out, but I will let him know. It's got a nice shiny front tube. You still got to do some welding here, don't you?
They haven't welded it in at all. It's just
It's just knocked in place.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Blasting
finish stripping it. You have all the components for his motor now, correct? Gears,
We got the shim.
pins. I got the shim. Got the shim all cleaned up.
Should have,
All right.
yeah. Should have.
Well, we'll just tack this on to the. So the grill's got to come out. Well, actually, you're going to strip this thing down to the skivvies.
Yeah, we'll be blasting the end of the day tomorrow.
If you want to try it out back.
Well, I don't mind doing it. I don't.
Well, what
But I just don't want.
we've got a big unit over here that
Right.
I guarantee you the valve in the bottom of it's froze up.
What's gonna happen is,
So
you know,
we'll shut her down.
Yeah, shut it.
Back on Michael's car. He asked me why we thought about putting a new trunk floor in the middle. You can see just how pitted this is. This is corroded away. All the tabs are broken off to hold the wire down. But the biggest thing was, as soon as we started manipulating it at all underneath there, working on where it was rusting in between under that cross member, this just completely broke away. It's just thin as can be. It just isn't nice. We figure we can clean up these nasty looking welds on the spare tire walls too to make them look better. Anyway, they've been stripping this so we can get it sandblasted. And you can see that there's a lot of goodies that have been taken off. The reason you see that floors and stuff haven't been put in is it's going to be easier to install them with everything out of the way and things sandblasted so that there's clean metal to actually attach things to. Again, remembering this is our front, one of our used front suspensions, just so the car can be moved around. His are actually lying here, all rebuilt and reassembled. Those will go in at the appropriate time. So you can see when we get done sandblasting, all this grease and oil and filth and dirt and sand, that'll all be out of here, and this will look all brand new underneath. It'll just be blasted completely clean. Even the factory putty and junk will scrape out of there and get that cleaned up. This isn't the one that had extra holes in here, wasn't that the other car? This one here? So we're okay with this one as far as, we were talking about this brake line though, how we did not like the rust in the pits in the brake line. This system is a single master cylinder system. It's getting pretty nasty here. This is a single plunger or single piston master cylinder, and if you get a leak in the brakes anywhere at all, you have no brakes. So the other thing we have to make sure of is that the emergency brakes work. So if anything happened in the future, they can at least stop the car. Customers trying to determine what color they want their interior. As soon as they decide that, oh, by the way, he hasn't gotten paint chips yet, and he needs them badly. This is actually not leather, so the car has been.
Might as well rip it off, because Steve already ripped it before the top was bad.
So he's not going to want this vinyl on here. He doesn't want that color anyway. And it's been sewn, looks like stitched together over here in the center. Are the seats vinyl as well? So someone's been in, obviously, and reupholstered this at one time. All right. We're determining whether we want to blast this here out behind the building, which I'm kind of leaning towards so we have a little better control. So we'll discuss that today. They're pulling the moldings off. They're almost done with that. The door handles will come off. She's just about ready to get out and get blasted. The harness is out.
This is under the dash. This is that generator wire.
This was under the dash.
Yeah, that's under the center of the dash.
I see bare wires all over the place. It's not going to make the customer too happy, but you know this thing was a time bomb waiting to set on fire, don't you?
Couple spots that had a little burn on.
That is nasty and not good. This is the type of insulation that they used, but not on all wiring, just some of the wiring. Unfortunately, the most important power wire on the whole car, they used the cloth braided wire on insulation, and I can just flake it right off.
That wire
Goes to the back of the headlight switch, but it feeds nearly the whole car. It's even frayed there. Yeah, he was he had a firebomb here. That's too bad. We'll inspect other wires. We definitely have to change this one. There's no way in the blooming world that I would even attempt to just tape this up. It's so bad so far. All the insulation, no matter where I touch it, flakes right off. Yeah, that's the biggest power wire other than battery cables that the car has, and I don't believe it's fused. So
What was that on the phone? 172?
166 and 172,
What was the 172? What color was that?
like a graphite gray, I think. We'll inspect this. I don't need to videotape all of the inspection, but if we find something other than this and the other wire that we already found, you can see here. You can see here. Rob, is this the extension of that cable? This looks smaller.
This is
That one's-
these are the positive wires.
That's
which are
smaller.
the other, yeah, they're the other two wires that go to the headlight switch.
They're all shot too.
Oh yeah,
Look at.
yeah, I know.
So we're up to 4 major wires that are gone.
Those are, yeah, these are your positive wires to your battery.
They come off.
And
They come off the starter.
And,
They come off the positive lead on the starter and feed the rest of the system.
Yeah,
And they're not fused.
no, they go to the headlight switch.
Yeah, and then that big wire that's all frayed comes back off it and goes to the fuse box.
That goes to the generator. It goes to the back of the headlight switch. To the
Okay, so we
same
got.
power wire that these go
All right,
to.
so we have 3 wires all crumbling down here. The insulation's all broken. They go down through this lead, feed back to here.
They go to the headlight switch, and then
Then
from
they
the
go back to the
headlights-
fuse box.
Then from the headlight switch, you have one main power wire that goes from the headlight switch to the fuse box, and then everything else is fused.
Okay, but these wires that are all frayed are not fused.
No, they go right to the headlight switch.
And this is one of them right here.
Yeah, that's the generator wire.
All right, and look at that. Okay,
Oh,
these
actually, that could be one of
these might be one of no, because the generator wire is right here.
those. Yeah.
Comes
It
out a
goes
different
up-
loom.
No, it goes right through here. It goes.
Okay, but what about those? These go to the back of the starter term, the solenoid on the starter.
Yes. And then they go into this harness
Okay,
and go back.
they go back to the fuse box possibly.
No, they go to the headlight switch, and then they go from the headlight switch to the fuse box.
All right, so this is obviously a different one.
That's the generator one.
So we've got
This is
4.
the starter.
We got
That's the
4
generator.
wires for sure shot.
Yeah, and then you got your coil wire, which is somewhere else in this harness. That's all frayed too.
So 5 wires.
all your main wires.
All the main power wires are
All
shot.
the main power wires. The other ones are just headlights and turn signals.
Right. But the neat thing is, all the other ones, they used a rubber insulation, not a cloth insulation.
Right.
Which I don't understand. This is a mess.
Jag wire did the same thing. That's why a lot of Jags and earlier ones burned.
After they got a little older, they...
Yeah, once they get 15, 20 years old and they start burning. That kind of wire under the
Well, I guess we'll talk with him. Because how long these leads go, this is the back of...
You have to cut the whole harness.
This is the rear harness. This is the rear harness that goes back?
Yeah.
As far as we can tell,
It's all right.
there's no cloth wiring in that.
Couple of the terminals at the end by where it hooks up to the taillights and stuff are bad, but
That's easy to fix.
that ain't that's just a
No.
terminal end.
Yeah.
One of them is cut short, but not a big deal.
This is that same harness. What are these? Someone linked onto them with a little clip tube that you can plug into, and there's two of them back here. What is that? That goes to the rear of the car, doesn't it? Or does this come under the hood?
No, this is the rear of the car.
This is the rear one, I
I
thought.
didn't notice those were up about.
I think this is the rear because I was following it. You sure that's the rear one?
Those
Yeah.
are- yeah,
I think that's the rear one because it's really long.
I know it is. Junction. That is your
I've never seen
Right.
there's no way that's a
That's your-
factory splice.
No, it's not. That's your right side. I don't think it's spliced into the wire. I think
No,
it's
they
just
crimped it.
around the wire. I think this is what they were using to hold it to the back of the car.
So you don't think it's crimping or
I don't-
pinching.
I
See
don't-
those little barbs right there?
Yeah.
Those barbs push into and make contact with the wire. So we'll have to tape that up if we use this harness over.
I don't think they
That's what those little indents.
are. Yeah, I know,
They look like they're little sharp barbs. Now make sure you poke yourself in the finger because a day isn't a good day unless you're injured in some way, right? Sharp barbs, aren't they?
but no. Well, I guess there are a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, they're pretty good.
Put that back on there so we know where it was and we'll tape that up. Just pinch it with your fingers, whatever. We'll tape up that area. If we're going to use this all over again. It's really frayed, but this cloth braiding is not a big deal. Well, we can put shrink wrap over
These
that.
are, and I don't know why they're on these wires, because these are the turn signals.
I do not know why.
They're turn signals. That one, the green light, the green with the black, and this green with the black. Looks kind of like that color.
I think so. Okay, well, we'll do some more inspection and then we'll inspect the dash here. Dash has not been carved away, so it's still original in this area. You can see it was a different color. Excuse me. You see that it was white and they just taped off around things and painted it. They'll be removing these moldings. Alright, we'll get back in a while. We gotta spend some time peeling this thing down. I'll talk to the customer. I gotta see how comfortable I feel repairing this thing. So if we can repair those 5 wires for considerably less than replacing the harness, then I think we're gonna have to consider that. May have shown some of this, just not positive. You can see that when they painted this, they just taped over gauges and stuff on the dash, just painted around them. lot of this stuff belongs to another vehicle, but we cleaned this room out, and that's Michael's stuff. Michael's stuff there.
We gotta clean the tranny out.
Yeah. This is for him.
Yeah.
This is for him too when we put that engine back together. This is for 2 other cars in here. This is new carpeting. That's a roll of leather. That's carpet sets too. So we're going to resurrect our big pot blaster. I think we're going to sandblast Michael's car right here. We still have winter. We'd have to haul it. We were going to haul it 15, 20 miles, get it blasted and go get it, but the weather hasn't always been cooperative, so I think we're going to roll it out back and do it here. That way we have a little better control over it. So we're going to clean this up. It's what we used to do out here anyway. That's what this entire cabinet was at one time, was a blasting booth. We'll get some shots if we get this cleaned up, get his car out back. You got that screwdriver you were using? Getting this car prepped for sandblasting. Just to give you an idea, all this debris came out of the inside of the frame. Including a mouse nest. This area here that was full all the way up. That was full. That's what all that debris down here is. It came out of here. I see seeds and sand. This hasn't even been sandblasted yet. So this has been put there by animal.
Yeah, there's a lot of sand in there. Looks like somebody tried to do something.
Look at the thick chunks. Ouch, that's hot. It's still smoldering in there, isn't it? This is even inside the quarter panel. Some of this fell in here, others, it was in there. Okay, this debris and this stuff is right near where the rear axle attaches to the frame. And you can't have that, not have the car be safe to drive. These are even under the seat mounts here. I don't know how they got inside of those areas because it's hard to get to. So you're going to blow these floors out? Well, actually the patches that someone put in for floors so we can sandblast this whole area better. He's going to open this up. We're working on the sandblaster so we can take it out, roll the car out back. You can see the multiple layers here where they've tried to go over top of the rust with other panels, but not very successfully. Is this side the worst?
They're both the same. Both of these have been patched on both of them.
But you cut the worst side apart, you thought, until you got to this one.
Yeah. This side's pretty bad too.
All right, well, we'll let him get going. We've got to turn him loose here with a plasma cutter and a grinder. Get all that junk off of there. But this gives you an idea of the areas he's cut open and all the debris that has fallen out of this side. Very similar to what we found. Very similar to what we found on the other side. A lot of it's just rust, chunks of rust. That is a critter. That is a lizard, is it not? Bone skeleton of a lizard. That's what it looks like. Interesting. So, I'll let you get back to it. You can see the apparatus he has mounted here allows us to tip the car safely on its side. We don't like them coming down on people, right? Yeah, that might hurt, all right. You wonder what the noise is in the background. Welding together jack ports for Porsche. They're separating items to get plated. We go into the plater again later this week and get a bunch of stuff plated. So that's it for now. Something they just mentioned to me, to keep the vehicle somewhat stable, they're cutting out all these chambers so they can get inside and sandblast the parts they're going to try and save. They're going to leave these floors in for right now so that there's some more stability for the car. We'll sandblast around it, get all these chambers cleaned up, and then they'll bring it in, probably replace the stuff up here first and then cut the rest of those out. You're going to cut the trailing arm area out a little bit so we can blast in there? Okay. So that's what they're going to do. As you can see, they already started. They had some grit, but I went and got them some finer stuff. They blast the inside where there's more ribs and stuff with a coarser grit material, and we're doing the outside with a finer material so that it doesn't cause warpage. I'm trying not to get out there into this nasty stuff. We have a bigger blasting pot that we're fixing up, and you gonna stop for a sec?
Yeah.
We have a bigger blasting pot that we're fixing up that'll do a little better job quicker.
It's like a blast rate.
I'm looking at a whole bunch of pop rivets here. What are they holding
They
there?
riveted this quarter in.
They pop riveted the quarter to the inner wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And I see rust holes clean through all of this here.
Well, this is original.
Yep.
Weld seam.
We're gonna have to change this tire, this trunk floor.
Yeah.
So just blast around the edges of it, if you will, because it is so rotten that some of this is even rotted away.
Yeah.
I can push my whole finger through there, and those are just from me poking at it with my finger back there, those holes. So you're going to need to clean up the tire welds so we can see what we got to work with.
Spare tire weld?
Yeah. We're going to clean the welds down that they welded the patches in with. Try to blend them in. We're not going to,
They're fiberglass.
We're going to need to figure that out. We're going to have to blend them in. He doesn't really want to buy spare tire welds if he doesn't have to. So we may be able to patch them better. I don't know. But soon you're going to know what you have to deal with. I'm seeing Bondo.
Oh, there's Bondo all over the car.
I'm finding a fair amount of Bondo here.
Blast it right down the bottom. We're going to take it down to about where the top of this fender is, and then I'll sand it down with 80 to get the rest of it off.
That's fine.
Header panel and headlight buckets, I don't know. pretty rough. Much hate to say, but it's been all populated, and they're all really bad around here. It's been patched in through here quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, we know that the lower nose has been
And it's not
drilled
actually,
and perforated. It wasn't that bad. They just pulled it and
it's
filled the
not
holes,
bad,
right?
But right through here is bad. This
Yeah.
is all rotted out here. They brazed it, but up and through here a little bit. I think we can.
I think we
save
can
it.
fix. I
just
think we
don't
can
know about
save
the
it.
headlight.
Yeah, we'll have to take look at it better when you get it all cleaned up. Nice day. A little chilly, but holy mackerel, it's a whole lot better than it was a few days back. The wind isn't blowing like a banshee now either. This is going to look so nice under the hood here. All that putty and crap and chunks of rust are all gone. That's going to look so nice.
Tell them we'll save this.
And there's that.
The header
patch.
panel.
We aren't sure why. They're telling me that there's about a silver dollar size hole underneath that. We're going to heat the brass up and pop that plate off. And we're going to fix that hole and leave it more natural looking, because that does not look so nice. This engine compartment is going to look so good. You don't want a big, it's even crooked.
Yeah.
You don't want a big crooked patch in there. All right. So then you're going to clean up the frame here too, so we have something better to weld to. But you're going to switch to that heavier.
Yeah, because that's.
I bought him 2 grits of material. I don't know if you can see this very well or not.
Works good for taking the.
This is finer for taking paint and some Bondo off, but I didn't want to leave it so blasted rough. So, what's the other stuff?
400.
They call it a 400, but this is a 3060. I don't know what all that means, but it's a finer grit than the 400, and it's fine for areas where you really want to blow junk out of there quickly, and you got a lot of ribs. You're not worried about warpage, but we cannot be warping these fenders, so he's going to use a finer material here. Is it working okay on the aluminum, or do you want to use the sand?
No, the aluminum's fine.
That's okay on the aluminum?
Perfect, yeah.
So you may not even need the sand that I bought.
The 400 will need to do all the inside, but yeah, that finer stuff.
The sand?
Maybe
Real
for
fine sand.
stuff that don't get covered or painted, body color.
Okay.
Like the stuff on the engine compartment.
Yep. I'm wondering if he can use it in the blasting cabinet.
right
the sand.
log and stuff. Yeah.
All right.
So don't tear
Well,
all what we're doing is
keep plugging away. It's looking. His wife's not going to think so, but it's going to look better when it's all cleaned up, so we know what we got to work with. Something I noticed just before I was going to walk away here. This is the inner reinforcement for the nose panel, and there's supposed to be about 3/8 square holes with little clips in them. You can see that hole is a little jagged. There's a rust hole next to it, and the next one isn't even remotely square, and it's all rotted away around it, and the next one over is rotted away.
We're changing it. We're putting a real one in there.
And the next one over is rotted away, and there's pinholes through the end. So this reinforces the top of the nose panel. So
Really thin.
we're probably going to have to change that.
Easy to work with.
Back on Michael's car. It's raining today, so we can't blast. You can see all the white stuff is Bondo, which isn't unusual. You know, the joints, they got to feather it in on the joints, so it's going to be real intensive down in through here. It's quite thick here. Till we blow that out of there, we don't know what we have to deal with. But they asked me to take a shot here. They've cleaned this up. This is a patch that they just stuck over top. The radio's making crazy noises over here. It's just a patch someone stuck over top of quite a rusty area. Actually, it's bigger than we thought, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's in that hole. On that rail.
So water sat up here for a long time. You're going to have to cut a piece for here, but I want you to butt weld it in. Is this where the air filter went?
Yep.
That's going to be fun.
Now we'll just have to put new ones in. It ain't a big deal.
It's a lot
Yeah.
worse than we thought it was.
It's a lot worse once you get it open. Well, all you could see was that
right.
from underneath because of this cross member.
But you got all these.
Look at
little
this is
tiny
all-
holes.
This is all pinholed all through here.
Yeah, we got them all.
It's bad though. You put a light underneath it, it's Swiss cheese. So
Yeah,
plus
it's-
you're gonna have to cut this anyway to get this piece underneath, and I'm not gonna butt weld it up here.
No.
It's gotta look right. So we'll just take this out.
Yeah, you're gonna
Replace this
you're gonna need
piece.
another,
Can you see that with the camera?
huh?
Can you see that with the camera?
All the little holes.
I don't. I'll try to come above it. Try that again. I can see it with the naked eye. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's probably 15 holes in it,
Yeah.
and those are the ones that are aiming this way. There's more up this sidewall here.
Right.
Yeah, well, I expected we'd find some more spots here and there.
Well, we got up here, back side, front, back, which we'll patch that. We're not gonna replace it. We'll patch it.
Yeah, that you can fix. That's not as bad.
On the side here, this is all
We knew that.
patching that.
I think we knew that from when we had it up on the hoist.
Yep.
We saw that there was holes there. I thought it was both sides.
Yep. A little bit on that
A little
side,
bit
not
over
as
here.
bad.
Yeah.
And then
This is almost rotted
yeah,
completely
there's a
off.
few holes behind that, so we're gonna cut
Yeah, I'd
that
say
and
that's
patch it.
rotted completely off.
We'll make a
So
new
just
one.
grind it down and make a new one.
And then of course he already knows about that, which ain't a big deal.
Yeah, but if you bring that back up, weld it from the backside and grind it down,
Yeah.
and put a little heavier plate on the backside
Right.
to strengthen it,
We won't have a problem.
yeah, you're not gonna have a problem. You won't see it. We'll, blend it in on the outside. But it's already been broken once. It's already cracked all the way around it. If you don't reinforce it, it's gonna. His luck, he'll have his head under here, and it'll come loose, and the hood will close on his head or his wife's. So you don't need that. Just reinforce it so it can't happen. You're gonna do the same thing with this as we did the others. You're gonna seam seal all these joints here and make it look really good so water can't get back in.
Yep.
Yeah, you got a patch there to make.
But that's the majority of the train. It's not as bad as
Uh-uh.
we've seen. So
No. Did he have the original air cleaner? Because I thought he had Weber's and wasn't using it.
I don't think he had the analog. Oh, the analog was on it. The analog or whatever.
Yeah.
Was he using the original air filter? I'll have to look up.
Out in the back building.
I'll have to look in the other building. You're going to want to get the pattern of that so we can match the pattern with his,
Oh, bolt holes?
yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
and drop a barrel nut down inside, crimp nut or whatever. Okay, well, as soon as the rain stops tomorrow, we can finish blasting. I need to know information on the hose of the blaster. They sell that coupling on the end based on the diameter of the hose.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. So this will all
10 holes over there too.
this will all clean up in here.
Yeah, these are just mine.
The tunnel actually is in pretty good shape.
There it's not. Underneath it.
We'll get some shots probably tomorrow after we get a little further along.
The rivets
One more thing.
over there.
As they're sandblasting, we got pinholes forming here. This has been all pop riveted on. We will probably change that and drill them out and MIG weld through here so that it looks more like spot welds. This side okay?
Up top,
And then one of the
Oh, we got some more holes up here.
hoovered up over there.
You might be able to stitch those shut if you just can get it really cleaned up. I don't know why what they pop rivet. Oh,
wiring tabs.
oh, these are so flint. They're aluminum.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Oh, you don't want them.
no, those will come off. Will make
Yeah, they're all like that.
Oh, you don't want aluminum.
These are steel.
This thing's just falling apart.
These are steel, just brassed on. They're brassed on
Okay. All right. We'll get back in a day or two.
This
Okay.
panel's wasted.
This panel is destroyed, but I just want to show you that 0301 is handwritten on the back of this panel because it's for this car. This is the original door panel that came with the car from the factory in 1958. And that one has the same number. So what they did is they reupholstered all this. They fit these to the car. They labeled them, and they later put them on so they knew which car they fit. That way the die lots were correct, the door panels fit properly, so you didn't have a mix and match door.
Right. You have to trim the edges of the door panel to make it fit.
Yep. So we're probably not going to do the same, but that's what the factory did. So you can see that it's the same number. He might be doing those in Colorado. So, okay, later. We're gonna cut out that nasty area and build a new one. This is the patch that went over top. You can see it's even the patch is all rusty. And they didn't cut, they torched out little jagged holes to mount the air cleaner down. Back on Michael's car here. Already stripped the hood 1 or 2 coats. Boy, this thing's really going to town. Look how thick that paint was. Is that Bondo in the corner here or just paint?
No, it's Bondo. It's been painted 3 times and it's got Bondo in between paint.
Between layers?
Yeah. Pretty rough.
Oh, this is much better. A lot of little dings though, isn't there?
Yeah. I can hammer most of them out.
Yeah, we should be able to tap. This aluminum's pretty soft. As long as you don't get that drumming effect, then I gotta heat it. Then I gotta heat it and cool it and shrink it. And that's a pain with aluminum.
Yeah.
So you got both doors done now.
Both doors, deck lid,
Deck lid, and now you're
finishing
up the hood. She's mostly stripped. I'm trying to get as much of it as I can on myself. That looks like a big wad of Bondo there. It is lifting it though.
Taking it right off.
Yeah, okay.
3 coats.
We'll leave this on there because keeping that sealed will work that stuff a whole lot better. Okay. This is whose front end?
Michael's.
This car? This is the front end for Michael's car. The red one there. The tie rod tubes were sawed in half.
All of these used ones are too long, so these are all out of sedans or something.
Oh, so maybe that's why they cut them down.
That's the only one that'll fit.
It's bent.
And it's bent.
So we have to put 2 new. So we need to put 2 new tie rod assemblies on. All right, I'll grab those. I think I have them in stock.
I'll give you the ends.
So someone took his tie rod tubes. We filmed it before, and they sawed them in half and cut a section out. It must be, and welded them back together. And we are not going to put those back on. Then they put new tie rod ends on, and then in putting them on and taking them back off, whatever they were doing, the tuning fork they used tore all the boots, every single boot, sliced it right open, and put cuts right through the boot. And this is just our box of used goodies.
I did find a used one that was on here that was in really good shape. And he had one on this drag link
Yeah.
that was all torn up.
So you replaced the
So I
boot?
replaced that one boot.
Okay, that's fine. All right, I'll get you 2 tie rod assemblies.
Here's the
And then, okay, now his rear axle
it's all done.
is already put together,
It's
isn't
all
it?
put together other than we're waiting for the stuff from the plate.
All right, now did we put Bartel's all back together? Okay, so we got to do his yet. Okay.
Going to do nose panels now.
All right, we'll get back in a bit. He's going to finish stripping that hood and repair that patch in the firewall there. A little noisy back here. Front suspension is all assembled. Hubs aren't on. Control arms, these are the replacements. His were sawed in half and welded back together. We can't have that. This is his rear axle assembly. There's his shield for the underneath the clutch. I probably showed this before. Welded together. Then, these are brand new, but they destroyed them. See the big slices and cuts through them? They destroyed them with a tool to pop them off the car. Destroyed every single one of them. This will go on his car, yeah, those are fine. These somehow missed the last painting episode, so they got to be painted. That's why they're not on the unit at this time. So the air compressor just quit, so it's a good time to come out, show what we've gotten so far. The metal here was all perforated in the cup, and you saw how rusty it was. He's finishing up, cleaning that out. He'll put a new booster box in and then repair that area. But I wanted to show you how much Bondo was on this hood. You've stripped it 4 times?
Yeah.
Stripped it 4 times. I did this with my knife, peeling underneath it here. This is still what's left. This is all old Bondo. Well, we don't know how old, but. And I'm not quite to the metal yet, just scraping it. It's still soft because the stripper loosened it up, but I'm pulling another 1/8 of an inch thick. He's already pulled more than an 1/8 of an inch thick out of here. It's soft, which is why I can kind of carve it. This is about this piece here is about a 1/16 thick. So maybe it's not quite an 1/8, but see, there's still more behind. You'll have to hit this. You gonna hit this again, or you think that rest will just sand off? The rest will sand off. I can remove most of the soft stuff with my knife blade. So we're gonna have to hammer and dolly out the hood so we don't have to put all this much filler on. There's a variety of locations. This is just one more. You can see by the paint line, the Bondo's over top of the red paint. See that underneath there? There we go. So the car was apparently red for a number of years because this Bondo, this is a 1/16 or more thickness of Bondo over top of that layer of red. Still soft enough for me to carve it off. That's pretty hard underneath of there, but I think you can sand that little bit there off. I'm hitting different colors. That's a whole different color.
Yeah, that's primer and primer.
That's primer and just regular primer.
Yeah.
It looks like you're down to where you can sand it at this point. Even though that stripper penetrated deep, this was so thick, the Bondo left is really hard yet. It's soft there. This is pretty hard yet, but I'm almost to metal, so you can sand the rest of that without any issue. Any place else?
There's a few spots
They
here.
ground it pretty good here. It looks
Yeah.
like they.
It was full there, not as deep.
This looks like it's crowned.
Yeah, that's why they mudded the shit out of it up
Out of the
there,
front.
Crap out of it, yeah, up front.
Because this needs to be brought down a little to blend into here.
So
Okay.
You just gotta pull it down, hammer and dolly it out.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. A little bit over here. Big spot over here.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. Yeah. That's probably still soft, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's most of it should be.
Hold on a second. I'm trying to be careful not to gouge the aluminum, but I'm getting really close. I can start seeing it through there now. Yeah, but that's a 1/16 of an inch thick, and you've already stripped it 4 times. Okay, this here will harden back up when that evaporates. As you can see, I can still shave a 1/64 of an inch off each time I hit it with my knife blade. But once this dries, it'll sand off. You hit it now with sandpaper, it'll plug your paper right up on it.
Oh, yeah.
This is still almost 1/8 of an inch deep right there. Can you see the dent from the other side?
Yeah,
or-
you can see it's on the lip lid. That's why they got this $200.
Aluminum's tough to deal with.
Oh, it is. It is.
You gotta really, kind of gotta know what you're doing, or you'll mess it up worse than before. Yeah, that's still about 1/8 of an inch deep. Not quite. A little over 16. But anyway, it's pretty close now. I think you're going to be fine. But yeah, it's amazing what you can cover up with plastic. Because the hood looked pretty darn nice.
There was one gun in it somewhere. I don't remember where it was at.
All right. Well, we'll call it good for now, and I will. I'll get some shots. Give me a holler when you get this put back together, so I can get a shot of that in a little while.
Spider in tomorrow.
Okay.
Get that out.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Back here in Michael's car, as you saw, there were issues. They cut it all out. The battery box is back in. The patch is put in. The special nuts are in there that hold the air cleaner in place. New booster box is in place. He's got some studs on here to pull some small dents out. Doesn't want to use any filler in this area if he can help it, or at least a minimal amount. Hard to do that around them holes, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So he's pulling little dents out with this stud welder on the firewall and so on. And he's been sanding down. All these brass spots are where they've brazed pinholes, it looks like, in the fender, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
So the fender was full of pinholes. There are more.
There are more.
There's more pinholes. There's a pinhole here. There's 3 pinholes here. Some deep pits up here. Is that all Duraglass?
No, it's all Bondo. We didn't use any Duraglass.
That's all Bondo?
Yeah.
It looks like it's pretty thick in through there.
Yeah. This has been real thick too. I mean, they butchered that pretty bad on both sides. That's where that cracking come from.
Yeah, I think we can cut that out and roll a piece in there because the headlight clip Yeah, I'm eating a bagel. The headlight clip is still intact. Nothing to brag about, but it's
This right here, in order to get this nice again, you're gonna have half-inch
no.
handle like they have.
But if we cut this out
right,
and we roll a nice piece in there, you'll have just some small butt welds, and very
Yeah,
very
so-
minor.
minor.
So we've got brass filling holes here. Here, was that a dent there you're trying to pull up?
That was a dent.
Which Bondo did you find here back by the door? Doesn't look too intense, but I
This is a
see
little
more
bit on
there.
this side, but on that side, it's all the way down the whole thing.
Have you sanded it open so I can see it or not yet?
Yeah, I blasted most of it, but I didn't want to get it too hot. So it's, I mean, there's still quite a bit there. You can see
Yeah, it's pretty
thick. So
pretty thick yet. You'll have to see what you can pull out dent-wise.
Pull the fender out so that you don't have no more near that much.
We can
mud.
put a porta power in there and actually radius the fender, right?
Yep.
Same problem we got here.
Yeah, this is a lot of lead. So they use lead.
Well, that's not so bad. Make sure you don't wear a mask and breathe that in really deeply.
Right, right. So you get sick. Yeah.
Well, you won't have children. Let's put it that way. Otherwise, they'll have 2 arms.
Shit, don't need kids. Freaking nose bleeders anyway.
Yeah, that's really low. You must have had a half an inch of Bondo nearly there.
But they didn't use no Duraglass. That's why, when he was here, he was concerned with the cracking. That's why.
It was really, really thick, wasn't
Real
it?
thick.
So they had no good base under
They
it.
had nothing.
And these pinholes, you're going to have to see if you can.
We'll have to weld them.
You're going to have to see if you can stitch them closed rather than as soon as you touch that, you're going to blow a hole and they're the size of a pea.
Well, if we're gonna trim these out because these are so bad, we'll go on the other side of this.
Maybe that's not a bad idea. You can also shove a hunk of brass up against there from the bottom.
But it'll still expand.
It's gonna be the size of a pea by the time you're done. I'm seeing the lower nose panel reinforcement has pinholes all through it.
That's those where they hold the dent.
No, right here.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, they.
You got that's all rust, and there's brass around it.
all around there.
There's a pinhole here and over here. So we can stitch all that.
Yep.
There's pinholes through here, and you can see where they brazed up other pinholes. But the dent in the bottom was the primary thing that had all the Bondo sticking through it.
Right.
That's not all destroyed.
No.
Just
it's
need to
not
pull.
bad.
You need to pull it out instead of fill it.
You need to hammer and dowel it instead
All
of
right.
fill it.
Okay. Have you sanded anything back here that I need to film, or are we all set for now? You've come down a little. I see an awful lot of Bondo here by the eyebrow.
Yeah. Quite a bit up here. This is where all the cracking was,
Yeah.
and a ton of it through here. So we'll hammer and dolly all of it out, so we don't have to have nowhere near as much mud.
There's a whole lot there.
There's a ton.
Yeah. So primarily they just didn't pull the dents. If they had any warping, they just filled it
Right.
thickly.
Thickly. Yeah, real thick.
Okay.
You don't ever have to use that much mud.
All right. Well, it's coming along. I know that it takes a lot of hours to show much progress, but this looks a whole lot better.
Oh, definitely.
And it's stronger. You had just tissue paper there underneath that patch. All right. We'll get some shots early next week.
But
This is the bottom of the hood off Michael's car.
when they painted it, they oversprayed it red and then just aerosol black over it.
Mm-hmm. It didn't stick very good, did it?
No, they etched it pretty good.
They're going to be feeling the back side here where we know there were dents on the other side. They'll get in here and tap those out. You got to keep your filler to a total minimum, otherwise you'll get cracking and stuff in the future. So the hinge bolts all appear to be intact. Threaded nuts are still in place. Sometimes that's a booger, and then you've got to slice this open and fold it open and repair all that and then TIG weld it back closed. It doesn't seem to be an issue here. So deck lid, same thing. If we rub our hand across, we feel any dents, we'll take those all out before we try and surface and repaint this. The doors, I don't think they had huge issues, did they?
No.
A few little dings here and there, but nothing big and gaping.
But there again, I mean, we can hammer out the dents versus mud now.
Right. But I mean, there's no. We've stripped doors and seen welds 2 feet long and that kind of stuff, and we don't have that.
Couple inches long.
We don't have that issue. So can you flip this one up now that it's stripped? So minor dents, but nothing major.
Nothing major.
Good. He'll at least be happy to see that. Now his wife is as I mentioned, kind of gung-ho into this restoration, but these type of scenes where the car's all stripped down tend to bother her a little bit. So, but because the car was drivable, you know what I mean?
When they drove it in.
It wasn't necessarily safe, but the car was drivable. Now they're seeing it in this position, and it's might be a little much for them.
Hoping they, well, wait a couple weeks and.
Oh, it's gonna, big difference in a couple of weeks. Yeah, big difference. All right.
Patching up front here.
You have, or you're going
No,
to?
I did. Front and back.
Oh yeah, so you don't have to replace that whole
Yeah.
panel.
And then,
The welds will be ground down pretty
I
smooth.
can't get none of that yet until we blast the inside of the fender well.
Yep.
But
Oh
that's-
shoot, that goes up. That goes up clean into
Yeah.
here. You should be able to patch that
Yeah,
though.
we can buzz that.
Or weld that one hole shut.
But we gotta do this over here,
Over here, you got a little at the bottom.
but not bad.
Not bad at all. Not comparatively speaking.
Got the new tube in.
Yeah, I see the tube is in and welded. All right. Well, this is Friday, what, the 20, this is the 30th?
Yep,
This is the 30th.
already.
March 30th, Friday. All right. We'll get back early next week. Weather hasn't been cooperating.
Probably one of the better donuts.
Snowed here like crazy,
Lots of it.
and we've had people sick. But it rained, then it turned to snow, so we weren't able to get this out. We got the sandblaster all rebuilt and ready, but we're doing what we can do in the building because we can't take it out yet. We showed you this nose panel reinforcement from the other side. You can see why we don't want to leave this on there. The metal is so thin, it's just all perforated. I can take my finger and push it through it. This is supposed to reinforce the nose panel back by the hood. There's supposed to be a square hole here similar to that to accept these little clips. And there's no way it will there, there's no way it will there. It's just destroyed. They didn't bother to fix it. You can see they did a lot of patchwork on the nose. So I realize this is gonna be a shock, but we had to carve that out so that they can cut this away. We can put a new one in here, and then we'll weld this upper nose section back on where it was, so the grill will properly fit it. You have the grill, you can kind of fit the grill in as we're fitting it in. This is kind of nasty too, but we think we can fill it. He's been trying to fill holes. The nose is fairly thin. You can see, I don't know if you can see him in the camera here. They're tiny little pinholes rusted through. Even where the brass was put, there's pinholes through the brass. The only thing I think we're going to be able to do here, he tried to weld that, it just keeps burning away. This metal is so thin that it just burns away. You can see they filled, well, attempted to fill anyway, pinholes and stuff in here. Down here, this was hit at one time. You can see they just drilled a whole series of holes and slathered Bondo off, which is on an earlier video you saw Bondo oozing through all of these holes. We'll try and clean them out, and we're going to hit them with a welder and stitch them shut and sand it down. We're not going to leave the gaping holes. There's about 1/8 of an inch or more Bondo still here that he's got to sand away. So I've told him
we can't be cutting the whole nose off and replacing it. So they may have to put some patches in here to save this nose panel because it's a pretty big job. It goes clean up to here. And although this has been repaired, we think once we blast all this goo out of here and hammer things up, I'm not sure you can get behind there very well with that headlight bucket in the way. You can get in between with a block of wood.
Yeah.
So you're gonna saw here
Yeah,
and make a new curved piece that's actually shaped correctly.
Look over there. This goes like this.
Yeah, that's actually downhill.
Right. And that's why.
So you're gonna cut here,
Yep.
here, here, and roll a new piece.
Right. And get rid
Okay.
of all this real pin stuff.
Yeah, it's
Here
all
it ain't
pinholes.
bad.
I can see where it's all been.
Yeah.
These are pinholes all through here.
Yep.
Right here too.
Yep.
And here.
Up in there.
So in reality, looking at all this brass, where all the pinholes were, this fender and those was really thin.
Yeah.
But only in spots, right?
Yeah. It's not bad everywhere.
Yeah, all right, so you'll make a new piece. What about here? You gotta patch that in too.
Yep.
You gotta be careful because that bracket's gotta go back
Yeah. We'll have to put it back
in
on,
the right
but
spot to hold the the headlight ring on.
Cut it right down. And replace this whole piece.
You'll have to hand make it.
Well, I was thinking we just take it. Go get
Wait,
new nose panels.
wait a second.
New nose panels.
Wait a second. I may have, did you check with Steve, Rob? I have some new old stock nose panels that were cut up. We cut sections out of them. We're selling sections. Let me go see. Is this the worst side?
Yeah, they're both.
No, that side's all bad.
I may have a partial headlight that you can cut out.
This is all rotted there. This is all roughed in and bad all down around here too. It's all been patched.
Right.
Let me see if I have a partial. Let me see if I have a partial nose. He really should have a whole nose panel.
Really, that and headlight buckets.
Most panels are over $1,000. I think they're 1,700 or something. 14 or 1,700. I hate to get into that, but we are. He's got some pretty nasty stuff going on here. Let me see what I got in partial noses. Let me do that first. Okay, you've got this all cleaned up, sanded, ground down, and painted even, it looks like. Primed at least, right? Oh, it's just bare metal, isn't it?
Bare metal.
It's not that, it's not that etching primer.
No.
Okay. Okay. Looks a lot better. Looks a lot better. Looks like it belongs there and not some patch. Oh, you've got these fixed up other than some grinding?
Yep.
Okay. Looking good. Let me see what I got for pieces. I'll get you. Do you have one of these yet?
Yeah, right.
Oh, you already got it here. Okay. This is what this should look like. Actually, it sits like this. Nice square holes. Obviously, no pinholes. We make these a little thicker, which aggravates the guys putting them in, but we make these a little thicker than the original, so this is not liable to happen. This is 22 gauge, I'm pretty sure, and this is a heavy 20 gauge. So you may not think about it much, but it's much harder to put in, but it's a much sturdier piece of steel. Okay, let me just see if I have a partial nose with this on it. You'd rather have that anyway, right? So you don't have to try and piece that back together. Let me go see what I've got. Huh?
Both are nice.
Oh, this is a nose from a previous car that, by the way, was all painted and everything before the customer bought it. And it looked really nice. But you can see the Bondo was more than a ½ inch thick on this, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Still is in some areas up there.
Yeah, it was bad. Real bad.
That area right there had, I believe, 3 patches over it and about a ½ inch or 3/8 of an inch of Bondo. And that's what happened when they started sandblasting it. He was talking about possibly using But you can see that those areas are no good on this one either. They're all patched up and full of rust. So we can't cannibalize that nose panel. I'll get some shots here after we find pieces and start putting this back together. We found in our stash here a new old stock nose. This might be the one I picked up, by the way.
Oh, okay.
A new old stock nose panel. See, he's got issues through here on his, and all through here, and up in here, and he's got rotted out bottoms of his headlight buckets. So this would work, but it's not a full panel and it's not both sides. So it'd be nice if we had something like cut across here where he could use just the upper and patch that, patch that bottom. So we're going to go back and look in the other building. We don't want to have to replace the entire nose.
But if, I mean, really, if we're going to repair both sides,
yeah, it's almost
we're
almost going to be time-wise,
cost more and time-wise to
you know. So we're gonna evaluate that here in a few minutes. These are pieces that I've bought over the years. Some stuff I picked up out of Florida. These are factory new old stock that someone has cut and used pieces of, and there isn't enough here. It's about how much is missing, we think, right there. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's pretty close, yeah.
So by the time we patch and, you know, we could cut the headlight area out of here, say down through here and across. By the time he gets done buying pieces and we spend all the labor, if it was one side, I would say do it.
Right.
But both sides are a real mess. The reason they filled this so much, it was probably 1/2 inch deep. The reason they filled this so much is this is supposed to be a nice arch, and you can see that it actually comes and drops down. So if you laid a straight edge across from this point to this point, this is going to be real low. Same thing on the other side. Actually, that looks worse.
That's worse, yeah.
That's only about 1/8 of an inch.
But, you know,
But this is supposed to be higher than that there, so
yeah.
that material is supposed to look about like that.
Yeah.
So not quite 1/4 of an inch maybe,
But it's flat.
but it's flat, and this is supposed to be arched, and it's more flat through here. Then you can see it takes a big leap up to here. You can see that this has been, this might be the original factory weld, which is normal. This is fine. So we either have to cut through here, make this, and try and piece in all these little pinholes. We're going to talk about how many hours we're looking at here. And I really don't like this. That's really thin. The screw holes here are stripped out a little bit big. So we'd almost have to, yeah, there's pinholes
everywhere.
There's pinholes all through it, and this is all, there's pinholes all through here too. We're getting into a lot more than the customer obviously expected or wanted, but I can't help it. You got a pinhole here, and some pretty nasty rust right here. Well, let me put a pencil to this. This is all pop riveted and repaired in through here, and there's all kinds of pinholes all along the nose panel, the headlight bucket.
Both of them are pretty much the same. That side over there is just about as bad.
Where's that? Does that one have this brace?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's not as bad, but you got to cut through the area to get at this. We can't leave these big rusty holes through here.
That's just a catch-all for debris, and even though you're painting and putting this on here, if there's rust going in there, it'll just keep going. It'll come back. Let me find out. He needs an upper nose panel reinforcement for sure. The lower, preferably. But we're going to talk about the amount of time it's going to take to fix what he's got, as opposed to put a new nose on the front. And then we'll have to talk to the customer. Okay, this is a new nose. We wanted to see where it comes to.
It's about an inch forward.
So
it'll come back to about here.
hold it right.
Twist it.
No, I want that clip. Well, that clip's part of the headlight bucket.
The clip's way back
All right,
there.
hold that right over top of the clip, right there. And we're going to scribe this. You got yours about right?
Yep.
We're going to scribe where the new nose comes to see if it covers. By the time we patch and piece this thing together, oh good, you're back. You're back beyond all the nasties and all the pinholes. You could even afford to trim the nose a little bit if you had to, right?
Yeah.
All right. See,
Wow, we ain't gonna trim it.
rather than piece this all in with pieces, and try and patch this numerous places. Try to patch all these pinholes in through here. We got, that's not just a pinhole, Rob. That's a crack that's 1/4 of an inch long. You see it in the brass?
Oh yeah.
Crack starts there and goes all the way up to there. This thing's just thin as can be.
Well, I mean,
You got
put a
all
weld
these
on
holes that were down here.
Yeah, we got to weld every one of them closed and grind every one of them. We don't know what's under this Bondo here yet.
Yeah.
But there's pinholes everywhere. And if we try to patch them like they did with the brass, this is what happens. We're burning the holes bigger, because it's like welding Kleenex.
Or tinfoil.
So I guess I'm just going to have to talk with the customer here in the next hour.
Oh, by the time you get the okay, it'll be on.
I got to talk to him today, because we're down to only 2 nose panels in stock.
Yeah.
We've been selling them like crazy.
I'll keep that one back here until we find out what's going on.
So I wouldn't put a nose on this old rusty piece, because it is so pitted. As soon as I touch it with the welder, it's going to blow it away anyway, and the holes are stripped. Yeah, there's 2 pinholes here, there, all of this, all through here, here and here. Yeah, let me figure out what it's going to cost. Labor-wise, will be less to put a new nose on than fix what we've got. That much for sure. So we'll have to negotiate the cost of the other pieces. All right, we'll get back in a bit. He's pre-fitting the upper and lower nose panel into the front of the car with this grille screen, making sure that everything fits here so that when the hood opens, it doesn't hit anything or catch on anything. There's the nose, the old nose. You can see a lot of patchwork here. Already showed that there was a lot of patchwork on top, patchwork in the bucket, all across the bottom. There's part of the reason that that had to be, this section here had to be cut away so that we could change this part here that has several hundred pinholes, and I can shove my finger right through it. So we had to get this section out anyway to get to here, and in doing so, this is very light. Doing so, found all kinds of other repairs that have been done. Lots of Bondo and patches all through here. So the scribe line here is when we held the new nose panel on. it can come back that far. So a lot of what you're seeing here will be trimmed off and butted in, and this will be butted into here and welded into here. So he's going to get these other pieces fit the way they're supposed to be and then fit the nose panel on. We'll get some shots of that when he gets to that point. Variety of things on it. Back on Michael's car, we got this really neat unit here that they can grip the metal and pull it and work it and move it. Apparently you have the nose panel, the upper reinforcement, lower reinforcement where you want it.
Yeah, that's all done. I can pull the nose off so you can see it.
It's all right. The hood opens up the way you want.
It opens up. This has all got to be pulled forward.
Well, you gotta adjust this and roll it. And okay, so this is about where you wanted the
It's right close, yeah.
where you wanted the hood to
6
be.
inches from here to this edge right here.
From where?
From here to this edge.
How
right
did you
here.
come up with this number?
The old nose.
Oh, yeah. These cars
I know, they're not.
are as much as a half an inch off from one side to the other to the windshield post.
But the other car, well, yeah, it's measured. But it, yeah.
So if you come off of here to the hole in the windshield post, and then go over there to, I've had cars from the factory nearly 1/2 inch difference in length. Yep. I don't know how they do it and still get the hood to fit and all that, but
Well, don't they router the hood after?
the hoods are done after the main bodies fit. But they had some kind of a fixture. But who knows when the car was hit years ago? Right. But I've measured from this clip. Actually, it was a factory original car. You measure from that clip to that hole, and then go to the other side of the car and do it again. And they're never, well, anywhere from an 1/8 to a 1/2 inch of difference. So this is going to look pretty good here. Yeah, very little bit to piece in. This was pretty corroded up in here. So you piece in that. This you've got to roll. Oh, it'll pull right down in there.
It pulls down now.
Yep, it'll pull right down in there.
But I fixed all that, so.
No, she'll look good. So I won't be here tomorrow, probably maybe in the morning, but I have a funeral tomorrow, so I won't be here. So we'll get the progress next week when you guys get.
I haven't decided if I'm going to
Further
blast
along.
tomorrow or if I'm going to weld that on tomorrow. I'd like to blast.
It would be good if you can, because it's going to be nasty part of next week.
Right. That's why
So if you can finish the blasting of these areas that we couldn't get to, that would be nice. So I'm gonna go out and hit that other car real quick that Rob was working on,
Okay.
and then we'll.
We need wire for that.
What are these? Is this for this car?
No, these are for.
All right, I'm gonna shut this one down, and I'll pick back up next week on this. Back out of Michael's car. Starting to take shape. Nose panel's tacked in place. Welded most of the way down, not all the way. Got it clamped and fit to the lower reinforcement and the upper one, which is under here. You can see what he's trimming off is pretty rusty. Rusty, full of repairs. We'll get back towards the end of the day when he's got a little more time into it. We have a decent day now. Here's our blasting pot, quite a big one. Spare nozzle that I bought. This is a little coarser grit for peeling Bondo and things off the body. They'll do it at a distance. It'll blow this insulation and the pieces of carpet and all that. It'll clean this all up in here so we know what's bad. Give us good metal to weld back to. Nose is on, all the welding's done, upper and lower reinforcement, all the joints are welded. He'll probably take the paint off the nose panel as well, because it's just a sealer for shipping and so on. You can see he decided to sand a bunch of this because we had such bad weather. He was able to get a lot of the Bondo off. You'll see a variety of repairs, but really isn't that bad. This was a new quarter at one time. They put it on, but they did some patchwork here, and not sure why. Maybe the car got bumped after that. They just filled that whole area with plastic, so that's gone. He'll be sandblasting this out here, up inside the wheelhouse, because this is all Bondo and real thick plastic up underneath where they did repairs on that wheelhouse. We'll have to cut that away, get the paint off the other side. He's already sanded most of the tail panel off. You can see where they've spot welded it across the back, stitch welded it, whatever. So it'll look a lot different once he gets going here. We're building an apparatus to catch most of the grit that will drop to the ground so we can clean it up. That's not done yet, so I think today he's just gonna, it'll actually waste a lot of it, but we got to take advantage of the weather when we can. We'll get back after a few hours of blasting. I'm gonna record. He's got a bunch of this done. This was so covered in rust proofing and putty and stuff. You can see he tried to weld this patch in, but he just hit too much junk, so he's gonna stop. He'll bevel this in and weld this now that he has clean metal to go by. You can see all the rust inside these rails and why we want to get it out of there. Why we like to cut things open and completely get to clean metal.
Swiss cheese.
There's 3 layers of metal here.
Yeah, you got that all the way up here too.
That's not, you're gonna have to run a cutter through there and figure out what we. You certainly don't need 3 layers of metal. 2, because this lays to a sheet metal piece that goes up into here. This rail's kind of iffy. You got holes right through in this jack port. That jack port's pretty much obliterated. I can put my finger through it. I think I figured on one of those, didn't I?
Jack port?
Yeah. Didn't I figure on this bottom part of the rail on the jack port in here?
Yeah, that was this side.
Can you, before you blast, can you cut this open and get inside of there? We got holes that has to go.
Well, it's gonna go. It's not gonna go now.
I just want to take enough so you can get in there and blast. That's all. You got a rail here stopping you from getting up inside.
Not there. There you go.
Right here. Oh, this is open. You can get in there, can't you? Okay. The blaster sure cleans things up.
Yeah.
Just spick and span.
Shows you where all your holes are.
Well,
Go on the other side and look at the firewall. Look at this down here.
I'm looking at where the. Yeah, I know what to do there. That's like Swiss cheese. The only thing that was there was Bondo and rust proofing, right? We're gonna have to build something here, I'm afraid. That's not good because it's even underneath of this. These are really hard areas to get into. You can see the holes. You can see the holes back in there. That's not good. Even here. It's a thin sheet metal, but it's still perforated. It's the bottom of that cross member. Didn't they have a pop riveted patch in here somewhere?
Other side.
Was that down farther? Yeah, there is a pop riveted patch right there.
I don't know what they riveted to.
They put a nut in it,
Yeah.
and didn't that hold a brake line or something up? Yeah. But you can see that there's virtually no
Blocks or break.
virtually no material. I planned on you changing this, and it's a good thing
And the back.
because I can see daylight. I can see daylight through here everywhere.
Out of the other side.
Other side, you'll see it worse.
Huh?
Stand on the other side. See a lot.
Oh yeah. That whole thing is Swiss cheese.
So is the back panel.
Oh, I didn't notice that before.
No, it's so full of undercoat.
They sprayed it full of putty and junk. That's why they covered all that up. Yeah, you got holes. You probably got 200 or 300 holes through that thing. That's got to go. Well, inspect these spare tire wells when you get done, but I'm not impressed with them either. They patched the daylights out of them, but I'm seeing daylight everywhere. Huh? Yeah, I'm seeing daylight every place. I don't think you're going to be able to use them. I agree with you. This is gone here, but this is repairable. Like I said, you don't know until you get the cover-up stuff all off of these as to what you're working with. The Swiss cheese we see on the bottom of the car is on the bottom of this. And we're going to have to, we'll have to do it in pieces, but we're going to have to piece in some 20 gauge or 18 gauge at the bottom there. Probably going to use 18 gauge so it's a little easier to weld. We'll talk about it. Anyway, we got pinholes through here. They riveted all this. We may drill those out and plug weld that because it's not supposed to be pop riveted, but we'll see. For the most part, the rest of that's okay. We got pinholes here, but again, repairable, not the end of the world. I'm afraid those spare tire wells, I'm probably going to agree with you, they've been patched and then puttied all up to cover all the pinholes in it. This isn't impressive either. You going to be able to use this, you think? This cross member, both ends of this cross member are Swiss cheese.
Well, you're already going to have the trunk floor out.
This has to go, this has to go, this has to go, and that has to go. I'm going to have to put one of these in. The ends are completely obliterated. I can push my fingers through them. Darn it. I don't like always being the bearer of not so good news.
Why don't you get them?
On the other part, these side frame rails aren't as bad as I expected them to be.
See the rear tire on the what wheel was? How they patched them?
I can only see part of it. You're going to have to blast it. Well, this thing here is like an inch thick, so
That's steel.
that's all been, but it's not proper.
It's just a piece of steel going from here to
So we got to cut that out and put something in that doesn't come to there.
Well, I'll put a wheelhouse in it.
Put an outer wheelhouse patch in it. The other side the same. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 patches of metal in this side. And not any of them are done properly. So we're going to have to cut that loose and somehow loosen that. We're going to have to loosen these here at this pillar and flex this out to get that in there, or cut the thing off to get the inner wheelhouse in.
Wow, we just got to cut this off and fix that jack.
Can you get a wheelhouse up in there then?
Slip it up. Once you cut the wheelhouse loose from the quarter, you can slip it up.
That's what I thought. All right, I'll leave you alone. Get the rest of this blasting done. You're going to need the upper and inner patch here for this.
Let me get busy and make some more holes.
This frame, well, I don't want you to make more holes, but you got to get it clean. If that makes more holes, then it makes more holes.
It'll be alright.
The nice thing is that quarter was new not that long ago. Don't know when. They didn't put it on correctly, but it was a new quarter.
Pop rooted on it, the door post.
Yeah, I know. I saw all that. So you're going to clean these inner fenders and get this all nice and spiffed up. And we'll talk about this rail, whether we got to go all the way back with it or not. This has been all...
You gotta go all the way back with it. You're gonna change the whole
I don't think we... I think we have to go all the way back to here, don't we? This is all... This is all rotted away here around that jack port.
Yeah.
And I can put my fingers through. This is 16 gauge metal, and that's 14. And this here, well, you're going to cut this off so you can access this.
That's coming off.
And we might be able to,
This is the wheelhouse, so.
yeah, we might be able to patch that is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Put a piece in, and because this is okay.
Seems alright.
Yeah, maybe we can do that. Yeah, maybe we can do that. Just put a piece in there. I can bend that up on a press brake for you. All right, have at it. I'll get some shots when we get her all cleaned up. Unfortunately, he's going to have a little surprises here to look at, but we can't help that. Okay, pulled Michael's car back in. It's Friday late in the afternoon, and they're heading out. You'll see black grit. We haven't vacuumed that out or blown that all out yet. We have all the metal clean. You can see by the deep pitting just how rusty things were, and we did not want to leave those chunks of rust even in those locations. You can see where they've done patchwork, and there's still very bad rust in that area. We'll probably cut those out and probably cut that patch out, because I want to, if they don't have the bottom opened up all the way, I want to blast inside of there, because the inside looks just like that. This is all cleaned back up under here. You can see what it used to look like. We have a really nice patch in here with proper nuts put back in. Everything's, all the holes that were there, all the imperfections have been welded up, patched. I'm not sure how well I can see up underneath of here, but this is all sandblasted. Inner fenders are all sandblasted. They did not sandblast all of this off because the grit we're using is a little more coarse to remove rust, and this isn't rust, this is just paint. So there's a finer grit we'll use for that, or we'll just take a big 7-inch hog and sand it off. I showed some shots outside where daylight was showing, but this trunk floor, well, you saw it from outside. It's all full of pinholes. The spare tire wells have been all patched up. Where they're not patched, they're all rotted away. There's daylight pinholes all through the, you know, this has got a lot of grit in it, but you can see this is all holes all through here. It would take longer to fix it than it would to cut it out. This cross member that goes under here, as I showed you, both ends are completely rotted away. Not only are they tissue paper thin, there's just no material left. And the car's been hit at one time, which isn't the end of the world, but this is all buckled in here, which we could tap back out. But, as you saw before, these are all holes all the way across, all through here and all the way across, just pinholes everywhere. So this entire compartment from that cross member back has to be cut away. Under that cross member, we're going to have to build that bottom panel, and it'll be better to have this trunk floor out of the way to do that. We got to flip the car back over, cut the sheet metal off out from under the cross member, patch that first, and then we can put tire wells and a trunk floor and a back trunk floor in. I realize for Mike it's not a great news, but good news, it looks as though these body panels have been put on new at one time. I think even this one, and we don't have to redo them. We just have to cut sections away so we can work underneath
and then put them back on. So he doesn't need those panels, and that's, I believe, about a $900 or $1,000 savings, which he will more than spend inside of here, unfortunately. But tail panel we can save. They put it on incorrectly, but we can obviously fix that and repair those small dents. So, but it's almost completely blasted. We got some more things to cut away so we can shoot up inside there better. You can see that the fender is not totally shot. Some imperfections and some repairs that they did, but not something we can't deal with. And we did dust off the paint that the nose panel came with, because it's just a base primer. And anyway, that's where we are here on Friday. We'll resume again early next week.